Do you want to start, Claire?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate there's still people joining. So for those that are on the call, good afternoon. It really is great to see so many of you dialing into this event today. So thank you for giving up your time to listen to the presentation on mentoring. Because as many of you may be aware, it's a pretty topical subject at the moment, and it's certainly something that could offer you a pretty exciting and interesting platform of support. So today, we will be giving you an opportunity to understand what the Alta mentoring platform can offer for those that are interested in mentoring outside of the RAF, but within the aviation industry. Now, for those that aren't completely aware of the background, and I apologise to any of the presenters if I'm stealing your sandwiches here, but the Alta mentoring platform was launched within the aviation and aerospace industry in 2019. And it was the outcome of a joint initiative between UWE Bristol, the Air Force, the Royal Aeronautical Society, Airbus, and Little Blue Private Jets. And whilst there are currently some 400 members today, this particular launch this afternoon serves as an opportunity to really reintroduce this to serving females that are in the RAF. So now some of you may have heard of the Mentor Me programme that the TEDA Academy of Leadership run, and that matches the male and female mentors and mentees from within the service. And that absolutely still exists and does some really great work. But Alta is different in that it's been launched to specifically meet the needs of women in what is a male-dominated industry. And what it does is it matches the serving females with a mentor from outside of the RAF. And for some individual, that better suits them. So as such, Alta is complementary to the Mentor Me scheme. And from as the chair of the RAF Gender Network, it's very much a much needed positive means to address that gender imbalance. Effectively, it's a mentoring scheme that's been designed by women for women. Now, as you probably identified when I mentioned the organisations that have been involved in this initiative, it's focused on people in the aviation industry. So with that really does offer a platform and an opportunity to be part of a scheme with very like-minded people. And why is it so attractive, and what are the positive elements about it? Well, it's free, it's readily available, and it's extremely flexible, so able to work around you. It really could provide you with that opportunity to develop a relationship with somebody else who's a like-minded female within this industry with the goal of professional and personal development. So hopefully that just gives you a little intro into what we can expect today, and there'll be more details to follow and opportunities to ask some questions. But without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Sue and Anna, who are going to take us through this in more detail. So thank you again for everybody attending. Sue, Anna, over to you.
Thank you very much, Claire. Thank you very much for the introduction. And hello, everybody. I am going to start sharing my slides. So I hope the technology now will work. Can you see that? Is it working? Yeah, I hope so. So I'm going to be doing the first part of the presentation, and it's in a sort of an introduction. So I want to talk about what is mentoring and what is not, benefits and barriers of mentoring, different types of mentoring, and then a little bit about the type of mentoring that Alta encourages and embraces, which is called relational mentoring, and finally tips for success. And then I'll pass over to Sue, who will talk more about the practicalities and the project itself. So this part of the presentation is really based on the research that Sue and I did as the basis for setting up and developing Alta. So if we looked at the academic and scientific literature, and so what I'm saying here is based on that research. So to start with, what is mentoring? Mentoring is not training. It's very different from training in the sense that it's about a relationship, and the relationship that is about learning and is reciprocal between the mentor and the mentee. The type of definition that we adopt in Alta is quite a classical one, comes from a researcher called Cram, and it sees mentoring as being made of different sorts of functions or elements. So obviously there's the career development element or function, and that's what we tend to associate with mentoring. It's about coaching, sponsorship. It's about helping the mentee develop their careers. But there's also another very important element, which is the psychosocial support element. And sometimes that is forgotten in mentoring schemes and when we talk about mentoring, but it's equally important. And so that is about acceptance and confirmation, counseling, friendship, and role modeling. So those are important elements of the mentoring relationship. Now, what are the benefits of mentoring? Claire has mentioned quite a few, but I want to talk about what we've read, what we learned from the literature, the academic and scientific literature in this area. And so we found several studies showing that from the point of view of the mentee, some benefits of mentoring really are, career outcomes, like having greater career advancement in comparison to those who did not have mentoring, having more promotion and having higher income. So all of those kind of career outcomes, but then also other outcomes that are more subjective, like having greater job and career satisfaction, having opportunities to develop competencies and skills, having a sense of increased resilience, and also having a greater sense of belonging. And that can be a greater sense of belonging to the organization or sense of belonging to the profession, for example. There are also benefits of mentoring for the mentor, and we think this is very important, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So for the mentor, what the literature says is that benefits are things like learning, personal gratification, and better or enhanced relationships, but also the opportunity to develop managerial skills, access to new ideas and personal growth, and restoring valuable resources. So this comes from studies about people who find kind of career plateaus and are in a sense, being dissatisfied with where they are in their careers because there doesn't seem to be anything new. And actually mentoring someone else seems to restore that sense of energy, fresh air, valuable resources. There are also important benefits of mentoring for the organization. So the business case of mentoring has been well established in the academic literature. And from the organization point of view, it makes sense to support, to encourage mentoring because the organization will gain in the sense of increased retention of employees, and especially retention amongst minority groups of employees, and reduced turnover intentions. Now, I think it is important to also mention barriers or problems with mentoring. And perhaps you're sitting there and you're thinking, okay, I've had a mentor before and, it didn't work. I had a bad experience. And again, there are several studies about those bad experiences. They happen. And here are some of the reasons, according to existing research, why those bad experiences happen. And a lot of it has to do with lack of or poor planning of the mentoring process. So this is one of the things that Alta is there to address. Is something that is well planned, a process, a scheme that is well thought about. But this happens in many organizations. It's happening, for example, where I am at Newcastle University, we have a mentoring scheme that is in name only, but it's not resourced. There's no training around it. So of course, not everybody will have a good experience. And part of the problem when people don't have a good experience is because the matching between mentor and mentee, of the pairing of mentor and mentee, is not well done, well made. So if you have the luck of finding a good mentor or mentee with who you click and the relationship flourishes, great, but it doesn't always happen. Another problem that researchers point to is a lack of mentors from minority groups. So that may result in less positive experiences for lots of people. And what the literature calls the dark side of mentoring is when the mentoring relationship doesn't work because the mentor is self-absorbed or neglects the mentoring relationship, or even more seriously, has behaviors that can be described as manipulative. And the studies point to, stealing ideas from the mentee or backstabbing the mentee in different ways. So, those things don't happen very often, but they can happen. And we will tell you, and Sue will tell you about the kinds of things that Alta has put in place to, try to avoid this happening. And sometimes it's just a question of the mentor not having very good interpersonal competency skills. And again, that's something that through training, Alta tries to address. So there are different types of mentoring. As Claire said, Alta is complementary to whatever exists already in your organization, or also informal mentors. Okay, so the mentoring can be informal or formal, and even if you have and you're very happy with an informal mentor, you can join Alta and you can have a formal mentor alongside that. So informal mentoring is great because it allows time for a relationship of trust to develop, because informal mentoring is spontaneous. There are no limits of time. Mentors and mentees meet whenever they please, and so on and so forth. So that's all great. But the problem is that this kind of mentoring is not equally available to everybody. And academic research has shown that women are less likely than men to have informal mentors. And that is especially the case in male-dominated industries like the aviation industry. So there is a need for a certain formality of mentoring and formal mentoring schemes like Alta and like other schemes that exist in organizations really have a place in terms of addressing diversity and inclusion. So these formal schemes have to rely on processes and criteria to match mentors and mentees. They're not spontaneous. And again, you will see from Sue's presentation that in Alta, we put a lot of emphasis in getting this right, in getting the matching of mentors and mentees right. Usually there is some form of training, and again, you'll find that through Alta. And usually they are offline or outside line management, so that there isn't a differential of power between mentor and mentee, and those sorts of things cannot be, exploited in that context of the dark side of mentoring. So again, that's the case with Alta, because you would be mentored by or would mentor someone outside the organization. Formal mentoring schemes tend to target particular groups like trainee graduates or talented employees. So often what we find is that those kinds of mentoring schemes are available to women in aviation, but if you fall outside those groups, you're no longer a trainee graduate, or you're not seen as a talented employee, then you may be, you may have less access to formal mentoring in the organizations. And again, that's something that Alta can help with, because although it targets a particular group, women, it is open to any woman, independently of their career status and so on. So formal mentoring schemes can be more diverse and inclusive. The type of mentoring that Alta embraces and encourages, as I said, is relational mentoring. And this is based on a specific theory, relational cultural theory, that suggests that personal growth happens through relations, through connections, and that those growth fostering relationships are based on empathy and mutual empowerment. So the type of mentoring that we encourage is one that we see as a two-way street. So both the mentor and the mentee have something to offer in the relationship, and both have something to gain. So the mentors can also learn and grow from the mentoring relationship, and therefore the mentors are not someone up there who's only a teacher and a protector, and the relationship is more equal and becomes a safe space for both mentors and mentees. So trust and disclosure are absolutely important, and confidentiality is really important as well. So our tips for successful mentoring, and you'll see that this speaks to the Alta mentoring scheme, but also to any other experiences or relationships of mentoring. So it's important to be very clear about the goals you want to achieve from mentoring. Mentoring is not a panacea. It's not going to solve all the problems. So, you need to be clear about what the goals are. And both mentor and mentees are very important in making those goals clear. So we talked about the barriers, the problems with mentors' behaviors, but actually the mentee is key to making sure that the relationship is fruitful and positive for both sides. It's up to the mentee to initiate meetings, bring points for discussion, and follow up with action. So the mentee is really key in making the relationship work. The mentee is not passive, this is what I'm saying. Both need to be prepared to learn from others and maintain an open mind. Again, not just the mentee as someone who's going to gain some learning and experience, but the mentor as well. Be honest about feelings and motivations, because, as I said, mentoring is not just about the kind of hard career outcomes, but it's also about the psychosocial aspects, feelings and motivations. Both should commit to the mentoring relationship. We saw what happens if the mentor is not committed to it and therefore neglects the mentee. But as I said, the mentee is also key to actually making things happening, initiating contact, initiating meetings, and so on. Identify personal, career, and professional development plans. So again, do not neglect the psychosocial side of mentoring. Yes, it is about career and professional development, but there are also some personal and psychosocial aspects to it. You will see that the Alta Handbook gives lots of ideas about starter questions, about all of this process, but it also recognizes that everyone is different. So those ideas are there in case you are new to mentoring or you don't feel very confident. You shouldn't get stuck. There are ideas there. There are kind of questions that you can start, points for discussion that you can use from the handbook, but you shouldn't feel restricted or restrained by the handbook. It's just a starting point. It is important to review the progress of the relationship frequently and regularly. And again, this is because we think it's very, very important to get the matching right. And so we'll explain how we do it, and we think we do it very well. But if it's not working, let's not waste people's time and lead to that idea that you had a bad mentoring experience. You can change, you can find another mentor or mentee. And finally, maintaining confidentiality is absolutely essential to all of this process. Mentoring is a safe space, and therefore confidentiality is absolutely key. So I'll pass over to Sue now. We'll tell you more about the practicalities and the practical aspects of the scheme. Over to you, Sue.
Thanks, Anna. I'm just going to finish the presentation. Sorry, it's just loading. Almost there. Can you see that?
We can see it now, Sue.
Great, lovely, thanks. I'll put my camera on as well. Right, okay. So yeah, thanks, Anna. Really great to hear about the different aspects of mentoring, which, as you said, are all important to Alta. So I'm Professor Sue Durbin. I'm one of the founding members of the Alta mentoring programme, and Anna was working with me at the University of the West of England when we designed the programme. And I'm going to talk to you today about what Alta is, and why I think you should want to be a part of it. So I'm going to take you through several aspects of Alta, but I'm going to start off by just sort of taking you through what underpins Alta. As Anna already mentioned, Alta is underpinned by a great deal of academic research. So the founding partners are here. Apologies, Judith. I don't know why Little Blue Private Jets aren't there as a founding partner. They should be. So, and the company was mentioned at the beginning. So alongside the University of West of England, Airbus, the Royal Aero Society and the RAF, Little Blue Private Jets was also is a founding member of Alta. So basically, we made a decision that a mentoring scheme was needed in the aviation and aerospace industry, and that came about after some research I'd done for Airbus and conversations with Alessandra Bodino at Airbus and Judith Milne, who was then the chair of the Women in Aviation and Aerospace Committee at the Royal Aero Society. So the decision was made that we would design and launch a mentoring scheme for women in the industry, because women just weren't getting any mentoring support. So the RAF is actually was a founding member from the beginning, and part of today is to tell more people within the RAF about Alta and to re-engage the RAF with the programme. So we have Vicky on the steering group, but we're aware that we'd like more members of the RAF to come and join us. So basically, we conducted a survey, interviews, and focus groups throughout the aviation and aerospace industry, and it was a 6-month project. And the survey was to establish what was being offered out there at the time. The interviews were to establish in more depth what mentoring was available, and there wasn't a great deal available for women, but we established that quite quickly. And the interviews were also about asking women, if there was an industry-wide mentoring scheme, what would you want from it? And then the focus groups were a kind of action research project. So we got people in different rooms in different places from the industry, from senior managers to engineers, to people that worked in finance, to basically say, help us design this mentoring scheme. And so all in all, with the action research, the survey and the interviews, we were able to go back to the project group. So the project group was formed between all of the people who are mentioned on this slide, and we worked together for a year to design and launch Alta. So we had a set of objectives. So the objective, build a mentoring scheme for women in the industry, base it upon what women wanted rather than what we thought they wanted. One thing I discovered over several years of research was that if an organisation did have a mentoring scheme, it wasn't always serving the needs of the people that actually needed it. So it was really important to change that. We designed training as part of our mentoring, as Anna mentioned earlier. So we're very aware that experienced people might be in a good position to pass on their experience and their advice, but they may not be very good mentors. So, we're not all natural mentors, are we? So we designed some face-to-face training, which was then turned into training modules, which are, at the moment, they're being considered to be updated. So the training at the moment actually isn't available, but it will be at a later date. We've also become a community, a network. So we're very much about not just single mentor relationships, but it's also about a community of women. So we have lots of events, etc., which I'll talk about a little bit later. So Alta is about helping other women up the ladder, basically. So it's about, so we've got a hierarchy, a typical hierarchy that you might find in an organisation. I appreciate it will be different within the RAF because of the ranks, but just think of these levels as different ranks. It's about helping that person at the bottom to help them to go further up. So the person helping them might be in the middle, they might be a professional, but we also realise that there might be women who maybe have just been through a 3-year apprenticeship or a graduate scheme, say in a company like Airbus, who would be in a position to mentor somebody who was just starting on that graduate programme. So they weren't too far removed from it. So they weren't now in a senior position. They were in a position where it was fresh in their minds about how they'd gone through that graduate programme. So it's not too much about hierarchy. It's more about women helping each other. And we also wanted to bust the myth about imposter syndrome. So part of our training was about, women do sometimes, not all women, but some women have this belief that they're imposters. I had it for years, when I first got my PhD, what do I really know? But then, it takes a bit of mentoring and a bit of confidence to make you realize you're not actually an imposter. So the imposter syndrome is about should I be here? Am I a good engineer? Am I a good pilot? And it's kind of having somebody to say to you, yes, you are a good engineer, you are a good pilot, how can I help you to progress? And that's what Alta helps people to do, which is hugely important. So it's about having that contact. It's about how Alta helps to combat the stereotypes. So it's about getting people to have that self-belief. And it's about, because it's based upon research within the industry, it's based upon what women actually told us they wanted, that can help with that self-belief and the connection with the industry and with other women. So it's really about building people's confidence. And I'm not suggesting that because we're women we're not confident. I would never suggest that. I'm just saying that when women work in a male-dominated environment, sometimes they can have different challenges, and those challenges can be helped by another woman that perhaps has been through similar circumstances. So what we're trying to do is reverse that downward spiral. So it's about the support that comes from the mentor and the mentee. So Anna talked about relational mentoring, and she talked about how mentoring is a two-way process. So it's getting women out of the downward spiral of lacking that self-belief and maybe valuing themselves in the workplace. And it's about also helping mentors to develop as well. And that's why we have a relational approach to mentoring, because one thing we realised when we did the research was that there are quite a lot of women actually in the industry who would make great mentors, but they never had the opportunity to become a mentor. So being a mentor, and I know this from my own personal experience, actually helps you in your own self-development. So, being a mentor is good for you as a mentor, but it's also helping somebody else as a mentee. And we are calling upon women that join us to actually consider being a mentor and a mentee. And we certainly need mentors to join us as well as mentees, because it has that relational approach. So we offered lots of support in different ways. So we offer, what support can you expect? Well, you can expect support with your career. With we're not saying if you have an Alta mentor then you're going to get promoted or you're going to do really well in your career, but it's going to help you to think about your career aspirations, and it's going to help you to think about what you want to do in the future. So it's about career progression, but it's also about social support as well. It's about having that, being a bit unsure about something, or maybe a technical issue that you might want to discuss with somebody, and being able to discuss things confidentially with your mentor. It's also about support at a distance as well. And I think this is a really important point for women in the RAF. And this was something we bore in mind at the beginning when we designed Alta, and it was about, well, it's a mentoring platform. So if you're on deployment as a woman in the RAF, then you can continue your mentoring relationship. We all know now how we can conduct meetings virtually. It's been a massive step change for everybody in organisations, but it's we can have virtual meetings, and if you're a woman on maternity leave, for example, then that's another way that if you wanted to keep in contact with your mentor, just because you're on maternity leave, you don't lose any terms and conditions of employment on maternity leave, and you certainly don't lose your mentor when you're on maternity leave. So we were really mindful about deployment and situations like being on maternity leave and returning to work. So it works in so many different ways. So to sum up, it's about career development, progression, it's about technical support, but it's also really importantly about social support, and having that safe space and that confidential space where you can go to a mentor to get that support. Sorry, my slides are really small. I'm finding it really difficult to read what's on them. So we have a matching platform. So basically what happens is, I think I've got a diagram of this on the next one. No, probably not. So what happens is when you log on to Alta, and we'll give you the URL address at the end for you to do that, you give your name and your email address, and then you'll get a response from the society, and you'll be asked to sign up with a password. Once you get onto the actual platform, you will be asked to complete some questions about yourself. So basically, we have a set of matching questions. So the questions will ask, if you're joining as a mentee, it will ask questions like, what kind of mentoring are you looking for? What do you want help with? What's your current role? What are you aspiring to within your profession? What kind of mentor are you looking for? And from a list, what are the key things that you're looking for help with? And so then that goes into the platform. So you press submit, and so that will look at the mentors who we have registered. So when you register as a mentor, what can you offer as a mentor? What's your current role? What level do you work in the organisation? What are the top things that you think you can help a mentee with? What experiences do you have, etc.? And so we have a system that operates through algorithms, and it's a bit like Judith always described it as a dating app. So you go on, you put your details in, and then it will match you up as best it can with potential mentors, and then you would then get communication through the platform saying, these are the top 3 mentors that came up as part of your search, and then it's up to you to contact those people, ask if they're available, and they should be available if they're on the system, and could you have an initial chat? So that's basically how it works. Just to emphasize, it is totally secure. It's all protected up by GDPR. All the data is held by the Royal Aeronautical Society, and the founder members have no access to the back end of the platform. So all the data that goes in, anything you tell us about yourself is confidential. So we don't know any of that, and it is a secure system. And I think you've got the reassurance that it's actually run by the Royal Aeronautical Society, which is a very reputable and established organisation. So it's web-enabled, easy to use online platform, and it helps to develop face-to-face as well as virtual relationships. So it's a two-way process based upon the relational mentoring, and you can choose whether you do all of your mentoring virtually, or if you want to meet face to face. Now, before the pandemic, we recommended you had a first meeting virtually, and then just to make that contact, but then arrange to meet up face to face, so you could actually meet each other and find out probably within the first 5 or 10 minutes whether you were the right mentee and they were the right mentor. So but if you wanted to do it all virtually, that's absolutely fine. If you wanted to do it all face to face, that's absolutely fine as well. So there are many different ways this can be done. Okay, just going on to the next slide. Okay, so who can become an Alta mentor or mentee? Well, any woman working in the aviation and aerospace industry, and we do have a very, very broad range of organisations, of the women that have joined us, the organisations with which they work. We have lots of different levels of people in different organisations, but it's any woman working in that industry. So any professional woman at any level in the organisations who think they would benefit from being a mentor or being a mentee or both. And it's also about being an experienced woman who can offer guidance to other women. I mean, there has to be, I think you'll agree, there has to be some kind of experience or expertise that somebody can pass on. And there also has to be, you know, if you were a woman on maternity leave, you're about to return to work, and you know, you think, oh, how do I return to this technical role when I'm managing a family, you know, gradual return to work. I really need to connect with another woman who's done it. So that, you know, that can be one example of what happens. So the platform's a unique opportunity to make a step change in mentoring for women in the industry. So it, you know, it is research based, and as I've said before, it is actually based on the real issues that women said they wanted to address, or the real support that women said they wanted. It is underpinned by the psychology models of self-belief, imposter syndrome, overcoming stereotypes, for example, and that was very much in mind when we designed it. It is endorsed and sponsored by the industry. You know, you just have to look at the founding partners to see that. But as I'll show you in a moment, we do have other supporters as well within the industry, and we do have that mentor training. So the story so far, we've got just over 400 members of the mentoring scheme. So that's mentors and mentees, and a number of those will be both mentor and mentee. Most are looking for help with career direction, feedback, and leadership role models. So Alta, the strapline is where women's careers take off. So there is very much a focus upon leadership. We have regular events, and I've got a slide that I'll show you some of the events we've had already, and we've just started a newsletter. So if you're a member of Alta already, you would have received a copy of that newsletter, just giving updates. So for example, we're going to be at the Farnborough Air Show, and we're going to be talking about Alta a little bit more there as well. So events so far, so these are delivered by the Alta steering group and subject experts. So it's not always us giving the talk. So we've had Captain Marnie Munns, who's an EasyJet captain, who talked about being a female pilot. We've had an academic from Newcastle University talking about the work-life balance challenges. So it really does vary. But excuse me, recent events have been an Airbus event on sustainable aviation. That was recently. We always celebrate National Mentoring Day, which is normally in October. So that tends to be a drop-in session. As I said, we had the managing the work non-work boundary. We've had the post-pandemic pilot landscape, effects of COVID-19 on our members. That was quite a lively session where people came along and told us about how Alta had, you know, been great because it was a source of support for them. And we also had a session on the power of networking. And we have lots of events coming up later this year. And we always ask our members, you know, do you have any suggestions for any events that you would like us to hold? So we're always open to that as well. I thought I'd include a couple of testimonials because there's nothing like, you know, the proof of the pudding's in the eating. So we, you know, from our mentors, the majority are senior within the industry, so there's sort of high level support for women. And, you know, we've had comments like, you know, Alta does enable women to become mentors. It's not just about getting that mentoring support, it's also about becoming a woman within the industry who helps other women to progress or to give them that support. But this mentor said here, you know, the online support help with the imaginative thinking around career choices and options, and kind of harnessing the power of the network has played a crucial role in supporting women in the industry during the pandemic. So, you know, a lot of our mentors have said that, you know, they felt that they've really been able to give support during the pandemic. And our mentees are from across the industry at all levels. So this one here said, my journey within the industry has been challenging in this respect, having the benefit of an independent female who may have trodden the path before me, etc., etc. So, you know, a really sort of powerful testimonial there. When you go onto the Alta, we've just redesigned the website, the Alta website. When you go on there, you'll see more testimonials that you can look at. And the story so far. So organisations as well as individual women can become members of Alta. So the RAF is already a founding partner, so women in the RAF are free to join. We say that individual women can join Alta as long as they work within the industry free of charge. But what we also say is we look to organisations within the industry to support Alta, because I think it gives a clear message that they're actually supporting women's development within the industry and within their own organisations, and it's also about giving a little bit of financial support so that we can develop Alta and take on more members. So Alta organisations can become Alta supporters if they would like to. So we have support at the moment from companies like Collins Aerospace, GKN, Safran, Boeing UK, my own university, and we've also had some private donors also helping with that. So if you are representing an organisation today that, you know, if you're thinking, well, yeah, we could support this, sorry, that's if you're non-RAF on the call today, then you can see who you can contact there. Akelia, that's her email address. But yes, we do have the URL. I think I probably put that on the first slide, so let's just go back to that so you can there it is there in blue. I hope you can see that, but I think Akelia can probably put that in the chat anyway, if you'd like to go on, and, you know, if you want to have a look at the website, if you want to just see a little bit more about Alta, maybe anything that we've missed today, then please do that. And you know, please come along and join us, you know, on this fantastic journey. Right, I'm going to stop sharing now. Thank you. I think it's over to Akelia.
Yeah, so that's the end of the presentation. If anyone has got any questions, then pop them in the chat, and I will put them to the presenters. Doesn't look like we've got any, but if anyone does have any questions, then oh, actually we've got some hands up. Wait. So somebody has asked, do you class all professionals in the RAF as aviation roles, even supporting roles like catering or cabin crew?
No, not at all. No. When we first designed Alta, it was before Vicky. We had somebody called Sarah Maskell, who was our partner, and it was decided then by the RAF that women could join at squadron leader and above, but that's now no longer the case. So what we've agreed is that if there's a woman employed by the RAF who, you know, who wants to become a member of Alta, then that's absolutely fine. So, you know, it's not something that we prescribe. It's certainly not just aviation. You know, there are many different roles in the RAF where women might want to get some mentoring support. As was said earlier, you know, this is an industry-wide mentoring scheme. So, but if you wanted somebody within the RAF then you can find somebody within the RAF, provided there are enough people that have signed up. But if you do really want to find somebody outside of the RAF, you can certainly do that through Alta.
Somebody else asked, does this include reserves?
If the RAF decides that's the case, yeah, that's it's not really for us to determine. I don't think. Do you, Anna?
No, I think that's a conversation to be had within the RAF, but we're also open to any professional woman. So, yeah. From our perspective, everyone is welcome.
Yeah, definitely.
So long as they identify as a woman.
Another one is, do you feel e-mentoring is the future to support women, giving them a greater pool of mentors to choose from? Both of you. So I don't know who wants to go first.
Anna, do you want to?
Sure. Yes, I think that when Sue and I and other people were working on the research that formed the basis of Alta, we realized that e-mentoring was really important. It is more inclusive. It widens the pool of mentors, as you say, and especially through these electronic ways of matching mentors and mentees, we were able to avoid biases that happen in other forms of mentoring and other mentoring schemes. I think that, like Sue said, in the beginning, it was about giving people the option, was face-to-face, and there was a kind of a consensus that ideal, if possible, face-to-face is key, but if not, then e-mentoring and the platform is there to support anyone and to be inclusive. But I think that since the pandemic, we became so accustomed to working online and meeting online, and we're seeing the potential that has to be even more inclusive. So yes, I agree. It is the future, and it's not to say that there isn't a place for face-to-face, but if we want to do things at this level, nationwide across the industry, then it's important to embrace e-mentoring.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and just using myself as an example. So I'm an Alta mentor, so I thought as a founding partner, I should offer myself as a mentor, and I thought nobody will request me because I don't know anything about flying an aircraft or being an engineer or whatever. But actually, I've mentored somebody through a master's program, so somebody who decided they weren't going to be a pilot any longer, and so I was their mentor for a year whilst they did their master's program. And another lady I'm mentoring at the moment has moved into a management position, and that's a lot of the stuff that I do at university. So and that's all been virtual. We've never met face to face, and I find it convenient. I can just log on to the meeting 5 minutes before it's due to start, and I don't have to travel too far. So having said that, I do like to meet people face to face. So I think, for me, it would be maybe meeting once face to face, and then, just conducting the meeting virtually. But I think it could easily be done virtually. No problem at all.
Great. Another question is, can women from the RAF Air Cadets take part in Alta?
I would say yes, but I think Vicky can put something in the chat about that, if that's okay, Vicky. I don't see why not.
Yeah. And a question for Claire, actually. How is the Alta programme being distributed working in tri-service environment? It says tri-service environment. This fantastic opportunity was only seen via a social media platform. How do you feel we can improve this? I don't know if you wanted to.
Thanks. I'm probably going to defer to Vicky on this one because you've had more exposure with the initiative itself. If you can you respond to that one, Vicky?
She might not be able to put her. Should be able to answer now, Vicky.
Oh, hello. Thank you very much. I appreciate the unmuting. So if I just do with the Air Cadets one first, I think it would depend on where that woman was in their professional journey within the Air Cadets. So this is a scheme really, it is for professional women. So the age and experience level would really dictate how much they could get out of this scheme. So I'm happy to discuss any individual cases, but really, Sue, because we were talking about university students and how we feel about them, and I think the same would apply. You have to have some experience, some idea of where you want to go to benefit most from the scheme, but happy to discuss any individual circumstances offline. In terms of promotion, so we promote all leadership activities, and I think Danny Nowalski's online as well through the TED Leadership Academy as part of their overall lead for mentoring within the Air Force. So I'm absolutely open to ways of promoting this. I think it has been under promoted in the Air Force, and I think that's reflected in the uptake levels. This is kind of the beginning of part of the beginning of the relaunch of Alta. So we're always open to any ideas about how to promote. We promote through the Gender Network Committee. I will promote every event through social media. Now we've got more of an RAF kind of link into it, and we continue to promote and link the programme through the TED Leadership Academy and their website. Danny, you've got your hand up. And if we can unmute Danny Nowalski, because she is the works for the TED Leadership Academy, and will be able to add details on promotion and general mentoring sort of schemes in the Air Force.
Okay, she should be unmuted. To be muted. Is it Daniel? Sorry, you had your hand up?
Yeah, Danny, are you unmuted at the moment?
Yes, hi. It's like my first time with Teams, isn't it? So yes. So just going back to the question about Air Cadets. So for Mentor Me, it is a whole force piece, but within the service. So it goes back to a point that somebody asked, I think, on security. We maintain that within the service caveats, but Mentor Me filters by age, rank, ethnicity, gender, but again within the service, civil servant, contractor, and service person. So, but it is absolutely different because it doesn't go out with, which Alta obviously does, and that's a really good benefit of Alta. So that's a little push for Mentor Me, but Alta is definitely different. We do not allow Air Cadets onto the Mentor Me platform. We allow Air Cadet staff, civilian instructors, that they're part of the whole force, but we don't allow the cadets themselves to join us. And there's a whole piece of work in that space because they are not part, they're under 16, they're not part of our fighting force.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah, just to come in there, that's something we've thought about in terms of Alta, because it was suggested over the years, maybe we should roll this out to schools. But at the moment, it's for women who are working. But we would like to offer it perhaps to university students who are studying for degrees that are relevant to the industry. Then we have to think about sort of protection and checks and all those things that must be done when you're working with under 18s. So, but it's certainly something that's on our radar. So, but yes, cadets under 16, I guess that's quite young. And that's a decision again for the RAF.
and I can offer Vicky and Group Captain Claire some, how we've tackled that for Mentor Me on a separate call.
Okay, great.
Another question we've got is, are there any plans to expand Alta to include those who do not identify as either male or female, but may experience the same challenges as women in aviation and aerospace?
Yes, we were asked this question previously through the Royal Aero Society, and it's something that we're thinking about at the moment, and that is, it's Alta's for women, and it's for people who identify as women, but we recognise that gender is fluid, and not everybody identifies with being male or female. So this again is something that we're discussing as a group. We certainly don't want to exclude people. We want to be as inclusive as possible. So thank you for the question. It's important, and it's something that's on our radar.
Another one is, what about extending to the FAA and the AAC?
Can you tell us what they are?
50?
I have to admit, Army Air Corps, but I'm lost with a bit with FAA. So could you just expand, Catherine, on FAA? Fleet Air Arm, sorry, of course.
So,
Yeah, should have got that myself.
Fleet Air Arm.
Thank you. I should have got that in context. I think the Royal Air Force is the founder partner here, so we need to speak to the TEDA equivalents. So I can speak to Danny about this within those services. But there's no reason why individually they can sign up, but as an overarching organisation, they would need to consider whether they wish to be a more encompassing member of this. But I'll talk to Danny about that, and we can reach out to their equivalent organisations.
Any more questions at all?
I mean, while we're waiting to see if there are any questions, I'd just like to say that it's been great to have this opportunity to come along and talk to so many women about Alta. To say the RAF is a founding partner, and it's been great working with the RAF, and we really welcome all of you as members. And we see Alta as very much complementary to, mentor me or whatever the RAF has as mentoring support. So we see Alta sitting alongside that, people that feel as women they need different types of support.
We've got a question. Is there a typical timeline for mentoring, such as number of sessions or agreed length of time?
No, we recommend in the handbook that mentee meet about every 4 to 6 weeks. Apart from that, we don't put a timeline on it. So, for example, at my own university, we have a mentoring scheme where you can only be matched for a year, but under Alta, you can be matched for 2 months, 2 years, 2 weeks. It really depends upon where the relationship goes and how it develops. And once the mentee maybe feels okay, I've really worked well with that mentor, I don't need their help any longer, then you can move on to a different mentor, or you can have a break from mentoring. So it's really up to the individual.
I think that might be all of the questions.
Okay.
Yeah, just lots of people saying thank you. So I think we can wrap it up there. If anyone has got any more questions, then definitely do get in contact. And I've put the link in the chat to register for Alta if anyone is interested as well.
Great, thank you. And thank you everybody for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for the questions.
Bye.
Thank you, Anna and Sue, for such a brilliant presentation. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.